You're listening to the Building Stronger Agents podcast, where we interview the top solo agents, team leaders, and brokers across the country to see what makes them thrive in today's market and beyond. Welcome to the Building Stronger Agents podcast. Today, we're interviewing one of my friends, Amy Izzo, who happens to be in Northwest Indiana. Amy's been an agent since 2013. And she sells about 100 homes a year as a solo agent. This year, she started building her team. So I'm really excited to look into that because I love talking about team growth. But before we get started, one of the things that I always talk about with other real estate agents is that our business and life it's not rocket science. Two things come into play a lot of the time, and that's taking action and then just being consistent about it. And we as humans are really good about developing bad habits and sticking with them. But it's a little bit different story when it comes to developing good habits. And without putting Amy on the spot, I have to recognize the fact that she has lost over 200 pounds. So not only is she's sustaining it, and she walks or runs 5 miles a day, and she's impacting a lot of people's lives because she's so inspirational. So not only is she an incredible, successful real estate agent, but she's walking the talk, and I'm so happy that you're on the show with me today, Amy. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. I'm so thrilled.
So tell me, 2013, you became a real estate agent. What did you do before that?
So I was in corporate business for all over 20 years. So I worked for a big corporation, started basically in almost like the file room. When I left there, I was assistant to the VP of their healthcare division. So I had a nice 20-year-ish career there, but I was traveling a lot and I had young children. My boys were 10 at the time and my daughter was 4. And we were living in Chicago and we had just moved to Indiana, which is real close by, within like 30 minutes of each other. And I was just burnt out. My kids were starting new schools. They were doing some new things. And my husband worked, but he was like a single dad because I was gone all the time. And I was just burnt out. And so the story is I came home from work one day and said, hey, I'm going to quit my 6-figure job. We're going to lose our health insurance in 6 months, but I'm going to get a big old severance because I'm going to negotiate it. And I'm going to start a real estate business. And my husband said, you're too young for a midlife crisis. Is this really, what is really going on? I'm like, nope, that's what I want to do. The company at the time was downsizing. My area was not in jeopardy, but we had to tighten up. And my strategy was I had really good leaders working with me. And so my strategy was if I made an exit, my leaders could stay and I could get out of a job I hated. So I had grown to hate. And I could start a real estate business and decide what my destiny would be. I was pretty naive because of course, you come home and you tell your spouse that who's not used to that, right? And my husband, he was a mechanic for 30 years, and he got his paycheck on Friday, and we had this lifestyle that we were used to, and I was about to make a big chunk of that go away in his eyes. And he was like, look, I support you in whatever you do, but you have 6 months. You have to replace your income in 6 months. And if you can't do that, you have to go back to some corporate place, maybe not that place, but somewhere else. And so I was naive and I agreed. I said, well, of course I can replace my income in 6 months. Have you met me? Right? No idea what I was talking about. Right. But I made no money the first 5 months, like zero money for 5 months, but I had activity every day, 40 hours a week. I just threw stuff at the wall. Because I'll say this too, it's a long answer to your question, Will, but the biggest culture shock for me coming from corporate America to real estate was I felt like every room I walked into, people went like this. Like when you were a kid in school and you walked down the aisle and your friends were taking a test and they would cover their paper.
Yeah.
Everybody went like this and would cover their paper. And so people would answer my questions, but they wouldn't really answer my questions. And I was like, 9 years ago, I was like, I'm 30 38 years old. I'm pretty intelligent. I have some sales background from corporate America. Of course, this is different. I passed the real estate test with almost a perfect score on the first time, but I can't figure out how to like get business, right? Good business.
Yeah.
I'm like, there's something I'm missing. And I just threw stuff at the wall for 5 months, and kept asking and looking. And by month 6, I hit my income goal that I had told my husband I would hit by the 6th month. So I like to slide in by the skin of my teeth a lot of the time. So
My coach says I win dirty. It's like,
I love it. So I slid in on month 6, and every month since then, I have made or exceeded whatever my income goal was.
that's awesome.
So yeah, so that's kind of my transition from corporate America to real estate. I couldn't be happier, by the way.
So when you first got in and you said you just were throwing stuff at the wall, like if somebody getting into the business now and they had the basics that you think are required, communication skills, they seem pretty deliberate and committed. What do you tell them to do? Like what should they be doing right out of the gate to build a sustainable income?
Well, I tell them to get out. Like, first of all, I tell people to get out and just tell everybody you know. One of the challenges I had was I moved to a new town and I got licensed in that state where I had no SOI, none.
Right.
So I had to, and I actually had some money I could have spent, but I was afraid. I didn't know enough. I didn't know what I didn't know, and I didn't know enough, and I was afraid. So I didn't spend any money right away.
Yeah.
Except to get my license, right, and get my tools, right.
Mm-hmm.
So, but still, my sphere of influence was only 30 minutes over the border. Had I made a list right away of everyone I ever met and that I did business with and went in and talked to them and just been a little bit more deliberate, it would have come a little bit faster. I did that in month 4. I was like, make a list of 100 people and just like go tell them something, anything, right? And just start calling them and checking on them. It took me 4 months to figure that out, right? Silliness, right? I just said I'm a pretty smart girl, but it took me 4 months to figure that out. And that's where my business started to come from initially. But I mean, if you met me during that time, everywhere I went, I was telling people what I did. I was handing out business cards. What I wasn't doing is collecting their information. What I wasn't doing is offering them something of value. Like, so what am I giving them besides just telling them what I do? So I tell my new agents, make your list, of people that you know, and then what can you offer them of value? What can you give them that doesn't ask them for anything? Right. And see where that takes you. Because it comes back a lot faster and a lot bigger than you think.
100%, because I look at life as like 6 degrees of separation. And when you impact someone's life and they think of you and they remember you afterwards, then they go out. It's like multi-level marketing. They go out and they run into their people. And if someone mentions that they'd like to move, or they'll say, oh my gosh, I just spoke to Amy 2 weeks ago. There's going to be some energy that's going to be around that interaction for probably a couple of weeks at least.
Yeah.
So if you do that consistently each day with 5 or 10 or 20 people, and I tend to sound like a broken record on this, but that's really all it takes to do well in this business. Even if you've got a frowny face, even if you're boring, even if you're not happy with the way you look, if you talk to enough people, you're going to get yeses. Do the yeses come easier to some people than others? Of course.
Sure.
But you're going to, if you pour in and you talk to enough people and it compounds each week and each month and each quarter and each year, then you're going to have success. And the reason that 87% of agents, according to the NAR5, don't make it to their 5-year anniversary is because of what we're talking about right now. They don't. They don't put themselves out there, and they react, and they spend all their
And
time busy time.
yeah, and social media, I was new to social media, it was just Facebook then, right? And I was new to that. And that we're just talking 9 years ago. But
Right.
I was new to it. Like I had a profile, but I didn't really use it. Social media is so powerful. What I started to do early on, and I tell agents to do this, is I went and showed houses to me myself every day. I picked the areas that I wanted to sell in, and I went and showed houses to me, agent previews, every day. And then at the end of the day, I would go, what did I learn? Right. And then I would go look at the same kind of houses in the next town the next day. And I go, how can I compare those? Like just really becoming a student of the market. So now when someone called me and said, hey, why is the house in this town that's the same square footage, seems to be the same footprint, same house, different than the house in this town in price? I could talk about that even though I had never sold a house yet.
Because you were building your knowledge of your product.
Yeah. So just really becoming, and I don't know that we all naturally think of these things, right? Just get out and really learn, and leverage the people around you. I leverage lenders. I eventually found agents that, were more successful than me that would let me work their open houses. Right. And that I could learn from, I negotiated for my clients, don't get me wrong, but I was really honest when I made a mistake with the other agent, right, in the process when I was new. And so I did have some really, I had some really good experiences where a more senior agent to me recognized I was new. Right. And was like, let me talk you through this during the transaction. I also had the opposite where they thought, oh, maybe I could take advantage of the situation, right? I could recognize that. But more, I would say, once I got into doing transactions, what do they say? The 80% of it or 20% of the agents do 80% of the transactions. When I really got into doing the transactions, you're working with most of the time I was working with agents that were seasoned. So, and would give me advice, would help me. I could be a little bit transparent with here and there without jeopardizing my clients, of course. And so, just getting out there and becoming a student and then sharing what I know, you can do that with social media so easy now. And really look busy. You can look like you're killing it when you're not. And I'm not saying be deceitful. I'm just saying post your activity, post what you just learned, because you just learned it and now it's going to help somebody else and they're going to call you.
Do a video in front of somebody else's listing and ask them if it's okay if someone at your company, whatever brokerage you're at, ask if you can go stand in front of the house or if you can do a quick preview if it's vacant and do a video walking through it. Connecting yourself with real estate and putting yourself out there is so easy now. If you've got friends on Facebook, or you can do it on Instagram, or you can make an Instagram reel, or a Facebook and Instagram are the same there, I think. But it's not that hard to do.
The other thing I did, and people made fun of me in my office at the time. The office I was with at the time, they just weren't very helpful. No offense, but they just weren't. So it was very competitive, which I appreciate. I just started calling agents in other states, introducing myself, asking them about their success. I just found them online. Hey, I'm a new agent. What can I do? It's my second career. What are the things I should really be doing? And I just shut up and listened.
And they were helpful?
And they were helpful. They didn't know me. I wasn't in their market, which really helped.
Yeah, you weren't
and they were super helpful. I wasn't competition. And they loved to tell me why they were successful.
Yeah, and so everyone likes to be asked that. That's fantastic.
Right? And I was like, great, just tell me, like, I can see that you're so successful. I wasn't a broker. I couldn't run their numbers. I was just following their social media. So it was my perception that they were uber successful. And in most cases they were. Right. And so I was just like, just tell me everything. And they did. And I was able to glean from that what I thought I could do.
That's actually really helpful. You could go on Zillow and just find agents in other markets and see that they have
Yeah.
120 sales and call them up and say, hey, I saw you're so busy. I'm in a different market. I'm brand new. Would you mind giving
Yeah.
me 5 minutes and giving me some pointers on what I could do to try to achieve some level of success that you've had?
And see, back then I didn't even know you could look at the transactions on
Yeah,
Zillow.
it's all
I
right
didn't even
there,
know
isn't it?
that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I didn't even, but yeah, it's all right there. So
that's a great way to get free coaching.
absolutely. Absolutely. And then you'll glean from that what is it that I found valuable in what they said, and what is it that I can try to
Uh-huh.
do, and I can figure out what I like. I think I've done everything there is to do. I don't still do all those habits, but like I door knocked. I never wanted to do that. I really don't want to do it, but I did it. Like, okay, somebody said to door knock, let me try it. Somebody said to call expireds, let me get hung up on a bunch of times.
Well,
Right? Let me try it.
your husband made it clear that you better replace that income. Yeah, and
And not want to go back to
even if
work.
he wouldn't have said it, you seem like the kind of person where you knew what you needed to do. So, listen,
Yeah.
uh, selling 100 homes a year as a solo agent, how did you get to that? I mean, how did you get the kind of energy behind the wind behind your sales to be selling 100 homes a year as a solo agent? I mean, most agents never get to do that. How did you get there, and how do you manage it?
So manage it. I'll start with managing it. Managing any kind of volume, really, like 5+ homes a month, you need help, right? So I've had some form of an assistant, and because I've learned, and I've had several people in that role over the years.
Right.
I've learned. I tend to learn things the hard way. So I've learned, but having an assistant that handles the transaction coordination and that can help with some of the paperwork, things like that, has really been important to me being able to increase my volume.
Yeah.
2 years, 18 months ago, that it became my husband. We brought him into the business.
Yeah.
So I
And
didn't have, so
he's
now
your transaction coordinator, right?
he's now my operations manager, but yes, he started as my transaction coordinator. Among other things, he did a lot of other things for me as well, but almost anything contract to close, he handled. He doesn't like the upfront sales, and I do.
Yeah.
So early I was the one on the phones. I still am, but I was the one on the phones. I'm running the appointments. I'm writing the contracts, negotiating the offers, contract to close. I've had an assistant in place to help get all of those things done. And here we attend all of our closings.
Oh,
So, I need
wow.
help with my schedule, things like
Yeah.
that too, to make sure I'm where I'm supposed to be. Because it's required. It's required that we're at all of our closings here. So
Oh,
I know that varies other places. But now I have an executive assistant. I have an operations manager. I have a database manager. So I've grown over time to add in some structure that helps keep me mostly on appointments, which is why I'm in my car. So I'm on my way to the next appointment.
what is an operations manager?
So what he's doing for me is he's really overseeing where are all our transactions, our inspections on time, our appraisals on time. As everybody in the CRM, did I write a purchase agreement and they're not in the CRM for whatever reason? Are they completely updated? Are people in the database on the right drips? Are there holes? Are there leads we're not working? My database is pretty large. Because I've made a lot of mistakes. So you might as well do something with this data,
Yeah.
So my database is pretty large. I think I have 36,000 in the database.
Which
You
CRM do you use?
can't possibly work all that. So I'm using Chime. So, operations, I just kind of oversee all of that and then give direction. So I have my database manager is putting people on drips and making sure that leads get assigned to agents properly and that they're getting touched and called. And my ISA is in there doing what they need to do and updating their records. So, I mean, I'm a solo agent, but I'm not, right? I have all these hands in the pot that are helping get me on the phone with people and get me in the door. It started though with me, right?
Yeah.
I just put that leverage in place over the last year. It really started just with me. So me on the phones, me on the listing appointments, me on social media, just me. So, and over time, I just started to add layers
Yeah.
as I could. And sometimes I added the right layer and sometimes I did not.
The two big time drains in our business are showing houses and closing coordination activities. So those are the things that I tried to fill early on. The showing agent is what I did because I had kids. So I got someone to show homes for me, W-2. Since 1997, I've had a showing agent when Adam was born. He's almost 26 now. And she showed houses at night and on the weekends for me so that I didn't have to do it. But I was always the one that wrote the offer.
Yeah, you told me that recently when we spent some time together in person, and I put that down. I got to get that worked into my structure because I don't handle that quite that way. Although I'm not showing homes, my agents are showing homes. Mm-hmm. I'm not showing homes right now, but there's an opportunity even for me there. So we're always growing and learning. I was like, I should learn more about how to do that.
Mm-hmm. So I would like to talk a little bit about your health journey because I'm so impressed. I've been fortunate that I've never had to worry too much about that. I mean, I started running at a young age, but for someone to lose as much weight as you have, I'd love to hear about that journey because that's honestly, you can sell 100 homes a year, but if your health isn't in check or you die, none of it matters, right? So, I mean, at the end of the day, it's like building a beautiful home on the side of a sand dune.
True, absolutely true. So,
and the mindset, the thing that blows me away about you, the mindset required to come from the bottom and stick with it. How did you get to the point where, when someone's broke and they're going to say, well, I'm going to just save $20 a week. It just seems like a hopeless battle to have it ever amount to anything. Or someone who's lost their home and now getting their credit score from 300 or up to, when you've just been living your life and not focusing on your health, you've been focusing on others. You've got twins, right?
I do, and I have a daughter as well.
Focusing on your 3 kids, your husband, your clients, your career. One day you wake up and you realize that you haven't been focusing on your health, which is the foundation of everything we're talking about. I want to hear about how you did that. I mean, I'm blown away by it. Honestly.
Sure. Thanks. That's very kind. The truth is, when I made the transition from corporate America to real estate, I was exhausted, not only from the burnout of the job, but I was I wasn't in a healthy lifestyle. I didn't recognize it at that time, but I wasn't in a healthy lifestyle. I was very sedentary, very workaholic, and that would be personally and professionally. So it was like, get up, do all the things you need to do, mom, wife, go to work, do all those things, try to get a little bit of sleep, do it again the next day. I mean, I could go on 3 or 4 hours of sleep, which is not good for anybody, right? And I didn't move. So except to move around, the house, except to move around work, right? I didn't really move. I sat in meetings and on airplanes, and that's what I did. So, and I didn't see anything wrong with it. I wasn't raised, to work out or to eat well. That wasn't valued. And a lot of this, what I have learned, I've done a ton of mindset work. I'm still doing it. What I have learned is, and nobody's fault, right? Just my programming was different than everybody else's. I had adult responsibilities as young as 10 years old. And none of that included taking care of yourself, right? I was raised that I wasn't valuable. So, but doing things for other people was valuable. And so that's what I did. And I carried that into my adulthood. And so part of the exhaustion was, well, yeah, I did want to move to a different career and I really wanted it to be real estate and to build a business, but I didn't have the health to really do that right. So even though I was doing really well my first year and my second year and my third year in sales, I couldn't really, I was leaving money on the table and I could see it because I was tired and I just couldn't do any more. Now, could I have, gotten more organized sooner and all of the business habits? Yes, but I still was exhausted, and I was exhausted because I wasn't eating well. I wasn't sleeping enough. I wasn't doing anything I loved or enjoyed outside of my family, right? Like something for me. Like now I take dance lessons. I dance. I'm never happier than when I'm dancing, right? But I didn't do it. I didn't have anything like that. If you'd asked me my hobbies 5 years ago, I would have a hard time answering that question. I didn't have a hobby. My hobby was my children, my work. That was it. And those are not hobbies. Those are important things, but they are not hobbies.
Correct.
So I didn't have that. And I didn't exercise. That was very foreign to me. And as you gain more weight, it can become very difficult to exercise. And it almost feels hopeless. When I committed to exercise, it was 15 minutes a day. And that was 2.5 years ago. Wow. So I'm 47. So in my mid 40s, I could walk 15 minutes. Now, quickly, like within a month, I got that up. Like within a week, that 15 minutes was 45 minutes because every time you do 15 minutes, the next time you can do 20, the next time you can do 25, like you can do and I was exhausted. So whatever your hardest workout is, my 20 minutes of walking at the time, that was my hardest workout. I was exhausted when I was done, but I also felt the benefits of exercise for the first time. Honestly, for the first time, I felt the adrenaline that goes up and the endorphins that are released. And when I started to eat well, I didn't feel inflammation in my body anymore. I didn't even know. I lived in an inflamed body from bad food and didn't know that it was inflammation. I didn't have that language. I didn't have that language around nutrition and health. I didn't understand it. And you could say you were mid 40s. Shouldn't you have read that? Shouldn't you have known that information's in the world? It just wasn't in my line of sight. So for whatever reason, it wasn't. So it could have been maybe, but it wasn't. So what actually happened to me is I stopped at my office in between appointments and I was going to go home. I always would get home for my kids after school for when they got off the school bus. And then I would do appointments again in the evening. So I would work all morning, home in the afternoon with the kids for a couple hours. And then when Nello came home, my husband, I would go out and work some more. And I was on my way home and I stopped at a red light and I fell asleep. And someone had a knock on my window on a very busy street and wake me up.
Oh my. And
it scared the shit out of me. Sorry. And it could have been worse. Like I could have hurt someone. It could have been an accident where I hurt someone. That's what it could have been, but it wasn't, thank God. It wasn't an accident that hurt someone, but it could have been. And that scared me. And I said, I'm going to die. I thought about that and I said, I'm going to die. And my kids are not going to have their mother. And I'm not going to have done the things I wanted to do. And my husband's going to be, a widower. And that's not like, what am I doing? And how do I get this figured out? And then from there, that was September of 2019. And consequently, I went to speak in a real estate event in October of 2019. And two friends at the time pulled me to the side and said, "You're the unhealthiest we've ever seen you." And they didn't know about this incident I had just had and the things I were thinking. So I believe in faith. So I just think that was God putting something in my path to go, hello, like do something with this. So I had a good conversation and I made some decisions about my health. And initially, I'm not ashamed to say this. Initially, I had a weight loss surgery, which helped me quickly get about 75 pounds off. So, I mean, when I took action, October, I made the decision I'm going to have a weight loss surgery. December, I had a weight loss surgery. By January, I was home losing weight. By March, I had lost 75 pounds, and then it kind of stopped. And I went, okay, well, 75 pounds is not enough, right? I got to get as healthy as I can get. And so I reached out to a health coach that a friend of mine had been working with virtually and got into his program. And most of it has been mindset work. I wanted him to tell me what to eat and what to exercise and how to do it. And let's do it. I want it all done tomorrow. And he was like, whoa, we gotta figure out how you got here. So you never get here again, right? You got to figure that out. And so it's really the majority of the work has been mindset work, but with the mindset work has come the movement and the nutrition, and it's still a struggle, right? I mean, I've lost a lot of weight. I have more to go. I think we all want to be as healthy as we can. But I still have like nutrition is my big rock. It's hard. It's simple, but it's not easy. Like real estate, simple, but it's not easy. So it's hard. So I still want to eat the sugar that I don't really need to eat. So I really have to work on those things. But that's really what it's been. It was, I don't want to die, and I want to run a better business. And first, I want to be a better person. Then I want to be a better member of my family. And I want to run a better business. And every top producer I ever talked to, remember I told you that earlier,
Mm-hmm.
they all had a routine that included exercise, that included some form of nutrition. And I knew that every panel I ever heard with anyone I ever respected, they all had some habits I didn't have. And I wasn't looking to put into play, because I just wasn't. I was very focused on the work. And so the work is easier to do when you're healthy and you have a positive attitude, and you're being your best self. You're being your best self every day.
Most of us, unfortunately, most positive changes come from some sort of trauma. It's very hard for most. That's why I'm so impressed by you. Most humans need something really bad to happen before they make a change in their life. And I've never had that. So I'm not coming from a place of knowledge, but when we see people that don't take their health seriously, they know that they shouldn't smoke. They know that they shouldn't eat late at night. They know all that, but nothing as bad has happened yet from it. And most of us wait until something like falling asleep at the light. That was enough of a shock for you, but we're both smart enough to know what could have, something fatal could have occurred not from the light, but any other sort of a health issue that you could have had, a stroke,
absolutely,
attack, right? So and
I'm very lucky. I'm very lucky in that way that I didn't have that. I'm very lucky.
Yeah, and that you took notice, and like with a much smaller event, most people wouldn't have even had the energy to be able to make the changes just from that.
Yeah, I agree.
Which seems to me like, because you're so high functioning, you knew you were trapped, but you always had in the back of your mind subconsciously I need to get this under control. So it was a couple of little communications that you then took as large ones and got the ball moving.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I hadn't thought about it that way before, but I always knew that I was living unhealthy. I just thought that was my path. Like I wasn't chosen to be healthy. And so I'm just a bigger girl. I'm just this, I'm just that. And that was never true. Those are stories we tell ourselves. Everybody's got stories they tell themselves about something. Those are stories. So I had a lot of stories. That was one of the tapes, that I had to, scratch the record Anybody know a record? Scratch the record, scratch the CD on, right? I had to kill that. And I still have to kill it and go, no, you can. When I started doing early June this year, so I'm always changing it up. I started, okay, I'm going to commit to 5 miles a day.
Yeah. When you told me
I was doing,
not to cut you off, but when you told me when we met in Universal Studios at the shareholders thing, and you told me you were doing 5 miles a day, 7 days a week, I'm like, that's 35 miles a week.
Yeah, I am doing it. I love it.
And you're
When
still
I
doing
committed
it.
to that, I'm still doing it. I committed to it in early June. It's just a commitment to myself. I don't know how long I'm going to do it for, but I was doing 2 or 3 miles a day before that. Most days I was skipping some days, and the weight was, I was like, the weight's not coming off, and I still have some more weight that really does need to come off. Right. And so I'm like, okay, well, the weight's not coming off because you're phoning it in now. So 2 or 3 miles a day is easy for you, and you're phoning it in and you're not doing other things. So like I'm doing some other workouts too, but you're like you're not doing other things. So I just walked one day. I said, I'm going to go out and I'm going to run is what I actually did, as hard as I can for as long as I can, and see what I can do. And I did 5 miles and I felt really good. And I said, okay, how many days in a row can I do this? I have had a day or two off. I have posted about that. But I have pretty much done it 7 days a week. I think I've taken 3 days off since the beginning of June.
Wow, wow, wow.
And I don't know how long I'll do that for, but I just know it feels really good and it's fun.
And you like to change things up because that's what exhilarates you, and you don't end up getting into a rut. What in our lives, like, it's all about peaks and valleys and plateaus, whatever it is we're doing.
Yeah, I agree.
So back to work a little bit. So you've got your health under control, which is fantastic, which is probably helping you be a lot more excited about working.
It is. And you know what? It's helped draw me to and other positive, healthy people to me. So my sphere is really changing without me, when that wasn't the goal necessarily. It's like a happy side effect. I have people that want to be in my proximity, and people that I want to be in their proximity that now feel they can because I'm healthy. I didn't know that before. I didn't know maybe folks weren't as involved with me because I wasn't very healthy. We didn't have a lot in common. They didn't dislike me, right? It wasn't that we don't like her. It was just, oh, now we have more in common. Right? Now we can relate.
It's no different than when we have friends and our kids are grown and their kids are young. You never have a time to connect, right?
Right.
But the other thing, I think, like when I started doing well in my 20s, because I've been a realtor for 34 years, and I had a very close friend all through high school. And when I started doing really well, he started getting pissy with me.
Yeah.
And I could feel our relationship moving apart because I was making a lot more money than he was. I had a much more active life because of that. And that wasn't my focus. It just was happening. Right. Mm-hmm. And we used to hang out every weekend, and then our kids would play together, but then he'd start making these toxic comments about, well, what do you know? You're just rich. I wasn't rich. I was making like $100,000 a year when I was 26. Right. But we ended up he pulled away from me and I pulled away from him because I felt like it wasn't that he was holding me back. It was the comments. Right. And I think that people that want to be healthier are drawn to you because they see it's working for you, so it can work for them as well. And then the people that you were associated with before, they basically your actions and what's happening in your life is making them feel bad about what they're not doing. Mm-hmm. So they end up becoming resentful and pulling away from you. And I think that is what causes this shift, maybe.
Yeah. I agree with you. And I would say the other thing is people that I have admired and wanted to be in relationship with. Maybe I didn't have the confidence, or they didn't see that we have anything in common. Suddenly we're really great friends because they've taken notice. They've gotten to know me better. They've wanted to offer me advice. Right. And now we find out we have all these things in common. Um, when you live healthier, you have a more positive life all the way around, personally and professionally. I had clients that hadn't seen me last year. I had clients that hadn't seen me in like a year. And when I went, to like a client event and some of them got to see me,
They had to been blown away.
And some of them said to me, "We always love you, but we prayed a lot for you." I had people praying for me because of my weight, and you didn't even know it. I didn't even know it. And I was like, "Oh, wow. Thank you. Thank you." Which I'm grateful for, but that's a message, if that doesn't slap you upside your head, that's a message, And so, I'm glad they didn't quit on me and they worked with me and they prayed for me. But I also for a minute went, wow, I don't ever want to be in that position where someone has to pray for me because I'm so unhealthy and I'm not doing anything about it.
And that could go. You could not be treating a relationship properly. You could not be taking your financial world seriously. There's all sorts of things where
could be alcohol.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, it could be anything. However that relates to another person, right? For me, it was very much eating and weight and health, but it could be anything for someone else.
Absolutely.
Any area that you're not taking care of yourself,
100%. So, how long have you been at EXP?
2 years. I had to think about it. 2 years, a little over 2 years.
Where were you previously?
I was with HomeSmart previously, and then prior to that, I was with a small boutique brokerage in my area.
Okay, HomeSmart's a great company. They're an up-and-coming company. I don't know a lot about them. I know a very successful realtor in my market. She's with HomeSmart, and she's wonderful. But why the change? I mean, you were doing well. Why'd you change to EXP?
I just saw a different opportunity at EXP that I didn't see. HomeSmart's a great company. I was with a couple of great companies. I just saw a different financial opportunity. I also saw a different culture, for sure, that I wanted to be a part of. Agents helping agents.
What opened you to that? Like, how'd you get in? What made you think about it?
I felt very isolated and alone. Just kind of heads down running my business. And I was always reaching out, working with other agents and going to conferences. But I wanted to do that I wanted to help other agents in a more formal way. And I wanted an opportunity to build a better life for myself and my family. I love my production, but I'm not going to be able to do this forever, right? At this production level. And so I loved, the components of EXP that allow us to build a financial package for ourselves, like I had in corporate America, but I don't have to be in corporate America, right? I had a financial package. I had stock, right? I had opportunities to earn bonuses. So we might call that rev share here, right? I had an opportunity to then just earn my pay, right? Selling houses. So all I wanted to do was move that over, right?
Retirement,
right? I had retirement. So absolutely. So in real estate, I didn't have any of that. So I was like, oh, I got to make all this money, figure out how to pay taxes properly. Oh, and I got to figure out how to build all that too. And I'm like, okay, well,
the pillars in your life on your own.
Right. So it's like, oh, well, here's a way to get some help with that. You still got to do it, but here's some way to get some help with that. And be in a really great culture and be, we're virtual, but I'm with agents all day, every day.
Yeah.
When I'm not with clients, which I love, and the fact, I don't know if I ever would have met you.
You wouldn't have.
Right. And here you are, over 30 years in the business. I never ran across you before, but I feel like, Will, I could pick up the phone and call you and you would answer my questions. You would help me. If I said, teach me how to build out a showing partner model, you would tell me what you know, and I would go then be able to go do that.
I already told you
I didn't
I would
have
help
that
you.
advantage. I know. That's what
Yeah, I
I
already
mean.
told
I
you I
could
would
just
help you
call
with
you.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
How
Or
we
whatever.
at any other brokerage, we wouldn't have access to that because we would be confined by the walls around our office or market center.
Right. So that's what attracted me to EXP is I can give what I know to other agents that need it. And I can have access to people at a different level than me that are happy to help me rise up too. So we all help each other rise.
Yeah.
That's what I love.
I like
And I'm going to tell you, because I'm also here to make money. So, and we can make money, right, at the same time. And, that's what it's about. I'd like to have a retirement party someday. I don't know if I'll ever really retire. I do love the work, but I'd like the option.
Yeah, it's nice to build a foundation around you without having to think too much about it. I mean, the model itself provides that, and it just, all of these other pillars fill up as you're walking along in life. Mm-hmm. They're filling up too without you having to think too much about it. I mean, because of the model that they created, that's the new model of the future that's getting so much pushback because it's new. And I made a post the other day. It's like when the we've all heard the Netflix blockbuster story, but it happened 120 years before. The horse and buggies, horse-drawn carriages. That was the big business, transportation business in the 1800s and early 1900s. And when Henry Ford created the Model T and the Model A, they fought and said it'll never work. We're going to pollute the environment, and they fought it tooth and nail. And then cars,
And now I'm doing a podcast with you in my car.
Exactly. Or I mean, the same thing happened with trains, I mean, the same thing happened with radio versus television. I mean, texting, when I first saw texting in 2005 or so, I was so frustrated. I'm like, I'm not going to hit XYZ. I'm not going to do this. It's not this. This is a gimmick. Now my 80-year-old dad texted me while I was on this podcast to see if I'm meeting him for lunch. You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah.
And so many of us are not early adopters. I'm certainly not, but EXP Realty is the company in the future. EXP Realty will be the model looked at that the other companies followed, and the franchise model will end up within 5 or 10 years, probably just sort of disbanding because our business has become so competitive and agents are controlling so much of their own businesses now. We're not dependent on the office as much, not just the physical office, but the brokerage in general. And the other brokerages, all they have is the only thing they can negotiate is commission. And it's a race to zero. It's whoever's going to pay you the most from the most out of that dollar you create. That's the one you'll be with. In any other traditional real estate brokerage, and they can't offer what we're offering. And I start to sound a little bit preachy, but as a business person who's been in the business for so long, I never thought that I would see a brokerage like this.
Yeah, I certainly
didn't think, not to cut you off, but I never thought I'd be here. I mean, this time last year, there's no flipping way that I would have thought in a million years that Penny Real Estate would have been at EXP Realty.
Well, thank goodness you are.
I'm so excited by it. Anything else you want to add?
No, I would just say it's, whatever it is that you're trying to do, it's just time on task, just committed time on task. So
stick with it.
That's all it is. Stick with it and grow your business, grow your life, grow yourself, grow your business.
And we're going to end on that note, Amy Izzo in Northwest Indiana.
Thank
Thanks for
you.
listening to this episode, everyone. Please, if you're listening on Spotify or iTunes, give us a review. That helps. And share this podcast with your friends, and we will continue to interview the absolute best realtors in the industry and bring them and what they do to help them thrive and succeed to you each week. Everyone have a great day. I hope you liked this episode of the Building Stronger Agents podcast. Please give us a review and share our show with your friends. We will continue to interview the very best in the business to see what makes them thrive in this market and beyond.